Hi everybody, and after our usual appointment with my video about the best films of the year, here comes the dark side with the worst movies. There are two things I say every year when I make these videos. Number one, this is all in good spirit, no hate intended. Number two, in these videos the films tend to always be high profile titles. I'm sure that if we were to dig in the meanders of more low budget, lesser known films, we would find some appalling titles. But the fun in these videos is that these are big, well-known films which just happen to be absolutely terrible. Okay, so let's start with one film absolutely everybody basically agrees upon, and that is Music. The first film directed by the singer Sia. This film features Maddie Ziegler, who is basically Sia's muse. You will see her in basically anything Sia has ever produced. I'm not sure what kind of deal the two have, as in contracts. There are a lot of people online saying that Maddie Ziegler didn't really have her say in her cast in the film, in her character in the film, because of contractual reasons. She just basically had to do it. And there are also rumours of her being upset because of her role in the film, or getting upset on set. Of course, these are all rumours. I have no idea if this is just internet gossip, but if this were to be true, it is understandable why Maddie Ziegler would be annoyed and upset with her portrayal of the character, because it is absolutely terrible and wrong. She basically had to pretend to be a person with autism, something which I thought we had all collectively decided to leave back in the 90s, but regardless of all the discussion about whether able-bodied actors can portray disabled people, which is a topic for a whole other video, in this film it is basically just, it's awful. It's just like a mockery of all the stereotypes associated with autistic people. Basically, the portrayal of this character looks like what the local school bully would look like when mocking somebody with disabilities. In addition to all of this, even if we set all of this aside, the film is bad in itself. It's awful. It's the story of a young woman, Kate Hudson, who, if I'm not mistaken, actually won the Raspberry Award for Worst Actress for this role, but I'm not sure about that. But basically she portrays a woman struggling with addiction. She has all a series of personal problems, and who has to suddenly look after her sister with autism, which could even be an interesting premise. But the character development is atrocious. It's cringy to the point that you could actually predict what the character's about to say. This is Sia's first film ever as a director, so it's not a good start, and I'm still clueless as to how a group of people got together and actually decided this was a good idea. But don't worry, we have more bad films on the way. Next up on the list is Thunder Force, starring Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer. Now, although over the years Melissa McCarthy has often been associated with loud, obnoxious, poorly written characters in bad films, she's actually a pretty good actress. She's been nominated for an Oscar twice. She's been nominated for a Golden Globe twice. The problem is that she often gets typecast into these characters like her one in Thunder Force. So Thunder Force is a comedic take on the superhero genre. It's set in a world in which supervillains are on the rise, and two old friends get together to try to stop them. But everything about this film is just underwhelming. The premise isn't even that bad, but there's nothing funny or interesting about it. It's just plain embarrassing. It really does feel like that effect that the 2016 Ghostbusters wanted to achieve, of making us constantly laugh after each of these bad jokes that we were offered, whereas they were just followed by a complete embarrassed silence. In my opinion, this was a total waste of time, money, and good actresses. Like, do you realise what kind of films Octavia Spencer is usually doing? Here we literally have Melissa McCarthy talking out to herself loudly to explain to us what she's about to do, which is then something which has no connection to the following scene. It's basically like having Dora the Explorer explaining everything to us as if this was a kid's show. There's no interesting character build-up, although these are two good old friends whose paths separate for a series of reasons, and then they get back together. So there could have been a good, interesting comedic duo. But no, let's just move on with the list. Next up, we have Space Jam: A New Legacy, a film I was actually really excited to watch a few months ago when the first trailer came out, because I really liked the old Space Jam back in the 90s and the early 2000s. It was a constant rewatch of this film. It was the big thing. Basically, Space Jam is a mix of real live action footage and animation cartoon footage. In the first film, the protagonist was portrayed by Michael Jordan, who played a basketball player who meets the Looney Tunes characters and enters their cartoon world where he has to enter this huge basketball tournament. There are a lot of adventures. In this new sequel, which is like the modern version, technological version of it, the main character is portrayed by LeBron James, and him and his son get stuck into this serververse, which is basically the Warner Bros. Server, where again there are enemies to defeat, a lot of basketball to play, a lot of old characters, some new ones. Now the problem with this film is that it is not so much of a film, but a huge advertisement for Warner Bros. Even the first film was packed with Easter eggs, with references.
Come on, Michael, it's game time. Get your Hanes on, lace up your Nikes, grab your Wheaties and your Gatorade, and we'll pick up a Big Mac on the way to the ballpark.
But you didn't experience the film as one big promotion, whereas this new film is basically screaming at you to spend money on Warner Bros. Everything has their logo on it. Everything is screaming references to other films, especially ones that now have their like 20-year anniversaries and special editions coming up. And it is also done in the least creative manner possible. Remember when we were all excited for that one scene in the trailer where, in sort of Ready Player One style, all the characters were running on the screen and everybody was freezing the screen to find out all the Easter eggs and identify all the characters? Well, that is the highlight of the film. That is the most exciting moment of the film. These stories, these kind of films are all about Easter eggs and references and meta humor for the fandom. So they need to be creative and fun and not just one gigantic cross promotion. Moving on the list, we have the new Tom and Jerry film, which isn't bad for the Tom and Jerry part in itself. That's maybe the only decent part. It's bad for all the rest of the story. This isn't a Tom and Jerry film, it's a badly made comedy during which every now and again Tom and Jerry run across the screen and actually do something fun. One of the reasons why these characters have always been so successful is because, first of all, just as Mr. Bean, they can be understood by everybody, and also they're mostly based on slapstick comedy, which, come on, after all, that makes basically anybody laugh. So imagine how many adventures they could get up to in New York with the traffic, and then this hotel with all the rooms and the floors and the kitchen and the pots and the pans and all the characters. There was so much potential. Too bad this film isn't about them. It's about Chloe Grace Moretz's character, Michael Peña's character, all the other characters of the hotel, and this huge wedding that has to happen. So it's not that I don't get it because this is a kids movie, because, well, first of all, there are good kids films and bad kids films, and also this is just appealing to kids with the Tom and Jerry ploy, but it's not about them. It's like making the Space Jam movie I was mentioning earlier and talking about all these characters and LeBron James and the new Lola Bunny, and then just showing them for a fraction of a second and making all the film about I don't know, Don Cheadle. But if we're talking of bad films, no film angered me as much as Coming to America, a film which I had completely removed from my brain from how bad it was. Now, quick premise to this, I actually really like the first Coming to America movie from the 80s. It's so full of inappropriate jokes and hilarious scenes, and it's just become a staple that I often rewatch just for some laughs. So you can probably tell how excited I was for this second chapter. In the first film, a rich African prince and his best friend travel to America in order to find what they believe could be true love and a more down-to-earth lifestyle which wouldn't be impacted by their wealth and the kind of influence they have on people back at home as their royalty. But of course, when they travel to New York, they get into a series of adventures. Now, in the second film, the prince receives some unexpected news from America and he has to travel back to the United States, where supposedly all new fun adventures happen. But they don't, because this second film is just a plain fan service and copy and paste of all the scenes, all the good scenes from the first film. There was no effort into creating something new and interesting here. Old characters, old lines, to the point that they're literally full scenes which are just copies from the first film. I think I erased most of this film, but I have a memory that at some points even old footage was being used. So in my opinion, there wasn't even any point in doing this film. Either you make something which will actually live up to the legacy of the first one, or just don't make it. Also, I guess you can tell that a film is bad when there is a blatant product placement within the first 3 minutes of the film. It's in the first scene. There is a Pepsi ad in the first opening scene of the film. It got to the point in which I was literally waiting for the end of the film to arrive. It wasn't even that bad, but in a funny sense film. You enjoy it even if it's terrible. It was just painful. And with that, my suffering has reached an end. This is the end of today's list. Make sure to also catch up with my other video, which you will find linked, about all the best films of the year. And of course, I'd love to hear what you think are the worst films of 2021, so make sure to leave a comment down below. Also, while you're down below, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.